I don't really know how else to start this. Hi, my name is David. Oh, this is also a soft launch, hard launch of my new hair. I did it myself. Anyways, so I love the Magnus Archives. The Magnus Archives is a horror podcast produced by Rusty Quill, written by Johnny Sims, and directed by Alexander J. Newell. Right now, it is probably one of my biggest hyperfixations. And I absolutely adore and love the show so much. And I got to thinking one day, a while ago, I was thinking, wow, this is a horror. And I love watching the Dead Meat channel on YouTube with the Kill Count show hosted by James A. Janice. Shout out to James A. Janice and the Kill Count show and everyone that works there. I love their channel, love watching their videos about horror movies because I love horror a lot as well. And so I got to thinking, what if the Magnus Archives was on one of those kill counts? But unfortunately it's not, because it's just audio. And then I got to thinking, hey, you David, you, when you had brown hair before, were making videos on YouTube. And you're also insane. So, welcome to the Magnus Archives Season 1 Kill Count. Okay? I will be counting how many people die in the Magnus Archives. Now, because it is an audio medium, and it's limited to just what is said, and also what I read on the transcripts, there's going to be some wiggle room, some leeway. Of course, this is inspired by the kill count, so I will be taking some of the examples from James A. Janice's show as well, in terms of the rules and stuff as well. So here are some of the rules. For the people that I'm counting, they either have to be important people, they have to be killed by someone important, we have to have either seen or experienced a death, and it has had to happen within the story and not before. And also, if a death was mentioned but depicted later, it will be counted later. We'll come up to that real quick soon. But there's little leeways in there. When I mean like happened in story not before, I mean sort of like when it's talking about Trevor Herbert's father and mother, he mentions how his father drunk himself dead and also killed his mom. I'm not counting both of them because that happened before. That happened before the story. That is some pre world building, pre backstory. That's backstory. That doesn't count. Some of them will. I will tell you right now, I am counting Martin's mother as dead because it affects him. It affects him in his story arc in season 4. But, of course, there will be some wiggle room and some notes as well as to, people who actually died and stuff like that. So, without further ado, let's get into the kill count. To begin with episode 1, Anglerfish, the first person that is mentioned to die, of course, is Gertrude Robinson. However, like I said before, her death was mentioned here, but it's depicted later, so I will count her later. But I will automatically just count 6 people right now who were killed by the anglerfish. Them being Jessica Ewan in November 2005, Sarah Baldwin in August 2006, Daniel Rollins in December 2006, Ashley Dobson in May 2008, Megan Shaw in June of 2008, and John Fellows in March of 2010. There's also sort of note, I know that in season 3 it's shown that they're not really dead or whatever, but like they were skin and then they're part of the choir of the unknowing, whatever. They died. They're dead. They're good as dead. Okay? Also, sometimes we're gonna come up to some people that we're like, are they really dead or not? And unless it's explicitly stated that where they are sent to or taken or whatever keeps them alive, a coffin, then I'm gonna count them good as dead, So, also note, Sarah Baldwin, Daniel Rawlings, and Megan Shaw, those are the original people, because obviously they get replaced by, like, mannequins or, like, wax figures or whatever, and we'll count those separately. But these are the actual, like, Sarah, Daniel, and Megan, who were, like, real. Episode 2, Do Not Open, did not have anyone there. As a note, John, who is just the guy who was taking over the coffin and then, like, tried to get John Gillespie into the coffin, whatever, went into the coffin himself. He's not dead, because guess what? People in the coffin are still alive! Episode 3, Across the Street, number 7, Graham Folger is killed by the Not Them and replaced by the Not Them in April of 2006. Rip him. He was really weird. Number 8 comes in episode 4, Page Turner, where we have Mary Key. Her death is kind of like iffy and weird in terms of like when I should like count it or whatever. I'm counting it here because it's the first time mentioned and we don't really get any sort of like depiction of like her like death or whatever. We get like her son and Gertrude like talking about like what she did and stuff like that, but this is the first time where we like are described the crime and how she like was covered in self-mutilation and stuff like that. So I'm gonna count her here. And there's also a note that it's her first death because she dies again later on in the paper. We'll get to it. Anyways, this was circa 2008 as well. Number 9 comes from episode 5, Thrown Away. Arlen Parfit gets turned into trash. In August 2008, he is dead. He's dead. I mean, it's not explicitly shown. He disappears. His heart is there. That man's dead. I'm sorry. That man's dead. Possibly killed by the extinction as well, which was a retroactive thematic element added to it, but that man's dead. Number 10 comes from episode 6, Schoolworm. Harriet Lee is killed by Jane Prentice in November of 2014. Remember, this is where Jane Prentice appeared on like the street, and Harriet was like, "Hey, what are you doing, girly?" And Jane Prentice appears in a red dress, and she's like, "Ugh," and then infects her with like the worms, and then Harriet Lee has sex with Timothy Hodge, and the worms just like explode out of her. Sick. Numbers 11 through 15 come from episode 7, The Piper. We're going to see a trend here where most of the kills come from slaughter episodes, which is understandable. We have Joseph Rayner, who died in a mortar blast in spring of 1917. We also have an unnamed private who died in a hospital bed in spring of 1917 as well. He was watched by Wilfred Owen. We know of a German POW, prisoner of war, who died from an infected shrapnel wound in circa 1917. We know of an enemy soldier who was eviscerated by Wilfred Owen in October 1918. And Wilfred Owen himself, who died when the war ended in October 1918. Numbers 16 through 18 come from episode 8, Burnt Out. I will be counting Ivo Lensig's father because we were described how he died. And also we know that he was killed by Michael the Distortion, circa 1996. We're also going to count Raymond Fielding here, even though multiple different moments we witness him alive and stuff like that. This is the first time we actually see him and experience how he was found burnt alive. Killed by a malicious immolation by Agnes Montague. Ooh. Circa 1974. And then we are also going to count Agnes Montague here, who was hanged to allow for the Desolations ritual to continue, which of course we find out why, of course, in season 4. But because we witness and hear the police reports, there's the body, there's the hand on the body, I'm going to count it here in November of 2006, Agnes Montague is killed. In episode 9 of Father's Love, we get kills number 19 through 60. All of them, most all of them actually. Robert Montauk murder, sometime between 1990 through 1995. Things to note, kill number 19 is actually Lynette Montauk, who was killed by the Still and Lightless Beast. We do have the name of one of the victims, Christopher Lorne, who was killed by Robert Montauk in the spring of 1995. Lynette, of course, was in circa 1989. 21 through 60 are unnamed Montauk victims. And there are a lot. I forgot to count how many actually there are. But You can parse it through. I also want to note that Robert Montauk is reported to have died here. However, we experience his death later, so I'll be counting it later as well. Number 61 through 63, we have from episode 10, Vampire Killer. Nigel Herbert is killed by the thing known as Sylvia MacDonald in October of 1959. And then we have Sylvia MacDonald herself, itself, killed by Trevor Herbert in same day, October 1959. And then we have Robert Arden, who was killed by Trevor Herbert himself as well in June of 1968. This was the guy he found who was like a vampire, and he was like taking a girl home. And Trevor like crashed a window and attacked him, and then the girl like, I think the girl killed him, not Trevor. I'm still gonna count as Trevor. Number 64 comes from episode 11, Dreamer. John Ouzel hangs himself after a bitter custody battle circa 2005. It also may be a fake name because this is during Oliver Banks' sort of like dream stuff, and we obviously know that he faked his name. So if he faked his name, he probably faked other people's names and stuff like that, so that no one could like really trace who it was. We also have in the same episode, number 65, Oliver Banks' father, who died by a heart attack sometime in December of 2014. And like we saw Oliver talk about his heart. Shut up. Come say hi. Do you hear him? I don't know how cats work. I'm sorry. I'm allergic to cats. Do you guys know that? Monster Exile. Number 66 comes from episode 12, First Aid. Diego Molina is killed by Jerry Key in December of 2011. Diego Molina, of course, comes up later on alive, but this is when he dies. He's a very nothing character to me. Number 67 comes from episode 13, Alone. We have Evan Lucas, who died from a congenital heart problem. I'm gonna count him, even though it happened like in terms of like backstory for Naomi Hearn, but I'm still gonna count him because it's a Lucas. He's a Lucas, and that sort of contextualizes a little bit about the Lucases and the lonely and stuff like that. This, of course, happened in March of 2015. Number 68 and 69 come from episode 14, Piecemeal. Paul Noriga is killed by Lee Rentoul because he was tired of Angela not killing him, even though she was getting this close, and because he killed him in April of 2011, he himself dies. Lee Rentoul, killed by Angela in the flesh in May of 2011. All that was left of him and his furniture was just a bunch of cardboard boxes. I heard that and I was terrified. I love Piecemeal. Number 70, we have from episode 15, Lost John's Cave, with Elena Sanderson, who is eaten by Lost John's Cave in June of 2014. Now, we know that with coffin, at least, people are not allowed to die. But we don't really know how the manifestations of the entities in the real life allow for death and stuff like that. I'm gonna go ahead and count her that she died. She's also listed as a fatality in the real world, even though she might still be buried in there. However, to me, it's nicer to think that she may have just died, and there's nothing saying against it. So I'm gonna count her. Number 71, we have from episode 16, Arachnophobia, Carlos Vitry, who died from, quote, asphyxiation, having foreign organic material in the throat and encased in webs in April of 2015. Number 72 comes from episode 17, The Bone Turner's Tale. One Sebastian Adekoya, who is the person who gave the statement about Jared Hopworth, he ends up dead later on. Like, John's like, yeah, Sebastian Adekoya got hit by like a hit and run, and his whole body was messed up. Oh yeah, that was a hit and run. Oh yeah, that was a hit. Oh yeah. Number 73 comes from episode 18, The Man Upstairs. Toby Carlisle, like one of the agents of the Flesh, he dies, I guess, or kills himself or something. He self-mutilated himself for the flesh. His death was listed as gangrene by like the coroner in October 2007, but it's weird flesh stuff. It's weird flesh stuff. There was flesh tacked to the walls above him, above the statement givers. Yeah, whatever. You know this one. This one's grody. Number 74 comes from episode 19, Confession, with Bethany O'Connor. She was the one who was being possessed by a demon who died by a brain hemorrhage in circa 2009. There are some timeline discrepancies. I forget which one I chose, but I just chose circa 2009. I'm going to say that she did actually die from brain hemorrhage, but that was caused by, like, multiple different fears, like the spiral, or I think it's mainly a spiral here, like messing with her brain and stuff. And consequently, 75 and 76 come from episode 20, Desecrated Host, which is continuation of the Father Edwin Burrows storyline, where, unfortunately, Father Edwin Burrows kills one Christopher Beeham and James Mann, circa 2009 as well. This one was interesting. It's like really well written, whatever. But then after the fact, John's like, oh yeah, there was like a delivery truck that had delivered like a stool. Not a stool, a stole. I don't know what a stole is. I don't go to church. That was like yellowish or whatever. And then that stole came up previously in the hallucination. And it's definitely like spiral stuff. And it's definitely like Breaking and Hope stuff. First, he killed the two students and then ate their face. But yeah, that's that. Yeah. Number 77 comes from episode 21, Freefall, where Robert Kelly is eaten by the sky in June 2002. Presumably he dies. I'm gonna say he's dead because I mean it could work the same sort of thing where like with the coffin where you're just falling forever in the vast. However, because there is no description as to what happened or whatever, I'm gonna say eventually he might have just, died of starvation, or killed himself or something like that. Anyways, yeah, Robert Kelly's probably dead, presumably. I mean, that man's been falling. He probably has not eaten anything, so. I also forgot to mention that episode 22, Colony, no one dies. Martin is not killed by Jane Prentice's siege on his apartment. So good for him, but no one died here, so we're just going to move on. Number 78 and 79 come from episode 23, Swordswald. We have Hans Winkler's mother, who was killed in Johann's crypt, circa 1740s. This was like a tale told by some people in the past, but it was really well described, and I'm going to count it because it was pretty, like, the implications are there. And then we have Rudolf Ziegler, that was reported by John to have been killed for, like, stealing stuff, and the way that, like, this entire story was written, you kind of have to, like, do some steps back. So we have Albrecht von Closen, like, finding Johann's crypt. He goes and like, I forget, I think he, like, takes something there. He takes, like, a coin and has, like, some German phrase on it. I forget what the German phrase is. This is what the German phrase is. And he holds it, and then he encounters this man without eyes coming from the crypt, and he's like, ah, ha, 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 I'm gonna kill you. And then he, like, topples him, and he's like, pin him, and then he, like, looks up, and he just, like, leaves. And Albrechtson's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave. So he leaves, and John's reporting about how a servant, Rudolf Ziegler, was found dead. He was found mutilated. They described it as he was attacked by, like, animals, and it said that he was pickpocketing people. And so it's loosely implied that Rudolf had pickpocketed Albrecht von Closen and taken that coin, and the coin led the eyeless man from Johann's crypt to Rudolf Ziegler to kill him. I don't really like this episode. Of course, this happened in March of 1816 as well. Number 80 and 81 come from episode 24, Strange Music. We have Nikolai Denikin, who died of illness in August 2004. I'm going to count him as even though it's like sort of backstory, he's an important character in the story of The Stranger and The Circus of the Other, and I'm going to count him. I'm breaking so many of my rules right now. That's fine. We also have, in that same episode, Joshua Drury, who's killed by the Calliope. In August 2004 as well, his jaw was removed. Fatality. Episode 25, Growing Dark. This is where we have Natalie Ennis and the Dark and Hither Green Chapel, Hither Green Road, Hither Green. No one dies here. The next death is number 82 with episode 26, A Distortion. We finally see Timothy Hodge killed by Jane Prentice in April 2016. This is where Michael shows Sasha, real Sasha. Michael shows Sasha Timothy Hodge and shows her how to defeat, how to ward off the whims by Jane Prentice. Number 83 comes from episode 27, Sturdy Lock, Paul Mackenzie. I had marked him as being killed by the Distortion, by Michael Distortion, or just the Distortion, I think, at that time, in October 2003. However, in season 4, Helen Distortion says that she was sad that she didn't get to Paul Mackenzie in time before natural causes killed him. So, he just died from a stroke. Good for him. I mean, not good for him because he died, but good for him that he was not eaten by the Distortion. Episodes 28, Skin Tight, with Melanie and Sarah Baldwin. No one dies. Episode 29, Cheating Death. No one dies in it, because guess what? They can't. It's also noted that Fiona Law had taken this statement, and it said that she died from like complications during like surgery or something like that. But we actually know that she was actually like in the coffin. So this can either be Johnny Sims writing a character saying that she died, and then let's bring her back, and no, she didn't actually die from this. She died from she's still in the coffin or whatever. Or it could be Emma Harvey convincing people that she died from a surgery because she's evil and bad. Whatever you want. Anyways, number 84 comes from episode 30, The Killing Floor. Tom Han shoots himself with a bolt gun in July of 2013. This is his first death because we know that he... Oh, wait, does he actually die later? I forget. Oh, God. Well, he's an avatar now of the flesh, so if he died later, that would be his second death. But I forget if he dies or not from Gertrude, but we shall see. Numbers 85 and 86 come from episode 31, First Hunt. We have Ardeen Neely, who is killed by a werewolf in December of 2010. And then we have that same werewolf killed by Lawrence Mortimer, same December 2010 as well. Good for Lawrence. Numbers 87 through 94 come from episode 32, Hive. This is, of course, Jane Prentice's statement, and her statement itself does not contain any deaths. It's only after the fact that John is reporting several deaths. First death, number 87, is Arthur Noland, who was through self-immolation in February of 2014. We know this is his first death because he appears later on in season 5 in the post-change world. He doesn't show up again before, between that or whatever, but that was when he first died, and he's still alive, obviously, when he's in the season 5. So that's his first death. And then we have 6 unnamed hospital staff and an unnamed nurse, making up numbers 88 through 94, who were all killed by Jane Prentice in February of 2014. The hospital staff were all killed by the worms ejected forcefully from her body, and one nurse who just ran and tripped and fell and broke his neck and died. Accidental. I'm still gonna count it as killed by Jane Prentice, even though it was by accident, but it was caused by her, that he was running from her. So yeah, I'll count that. Here we go. Yes, 95 is from episode 33, Boatswain's Call. Here we have Sean Kelly. I'm going to count him as being killed by Peter Lucas in April 2011, and it's implied to be suicide. And he was forsaken. This is where my sort of thought process is for like people like Robert Kelly and anyone sent into like any location that is not here, that is like the vast, the lonely, etc., etc. Because even though they're like in this location and they're sent away or whatever, they can still kill themselves, or they can still die, or they can still perish. We see here that Sean Kelly appeared, his body appeared later on, I think it was like 6 months later, and it's implied that he killed himself to get out of the Lone Lair because he was desperate and hated his life, and he was in a horrifying situation. So, like, this is why I'm saying that people, like, what was his name? He got eaten by this... He got eaten by the sky, or either you get eaten by the sky, or you get eaten by a cave. Either you're still alive in there, or you can still die. Because Sean Kelly here shows that you can kill yourself. Unfortunately. Or you can persevere and try. Number 96, I'm still iffy on counting this one from episode 34, Anatomy class. Dr. Rahid Sadana kills himself from suicide in spring of 2015. I'm counting it because it's connected to the anatomy students, and his like suicide note said do not use for like teaching or experiments, something like that. And I'm gonna say it was because of the anatomy students that he died. That's why I'm counting it. Number 97 comes from episode 35, Old Passages. We have Alfred Bartlett, who was killed by Robert Smirk's architecture, specifically the branch of the end, in June of 2002. How or why he died was very like iffy, but he definitely ran into like a section of Robert Smirk's architecture that was intended for the end, and he just died. Shar. Number 98 comes from episode 36, Taken Ill. We have Bertrand Miller, who was killed by John Amherst in August of 2011. This is, of course, where John Amherst takes over old people home, Alfred Bartlett being like one of the old people there. And we have also number 99, Alenka Kozel, who was also killed by John Amherst, who we witnessed her dying in September of 2011, a month later. I wish I could count the rest of the old people that died in John Amherst's hand in that old people home, but those are the only two named and shown. If they showed any other old people there, I would count them, but they don't. So unfortunately, I can only count 2 of them in this moment. Number 100 and 101 come from episode 37, Burnt Offerings. We have Lucy and Jason North, both killed by Gertrude Robinson. Lucy died in February of 2009, and Jason North died in August of 2009. Both are accidentally killed by Gertrude because Jason North had stumbled upon Gertrude's like flame circle, the Salation circle, and then like a lot of bad stuff happened. I'm saying that Gertrude killed him because she set that up, and then that is what led that to happen. Number 102, episode 38, Lost and Found. We had David Romeo, who was killed by the homophobic vase in March of 2012. Question mark, did he ever exist? Was it just a figment of imagination? Did he actually exist ever? Or did he, or was it some, like, did he actually... I'm trying to be philosophical here. I'm trying to be, like, spooky here. Yeah, he's dead. He was taken by a spiral. He never existed. Can you die if you never existed? Number 103, number 103 from episode 39, Infestation. Rip in peace, Sasha James, who was killed by the Not Them in July of 2016. Sasha, you went too fast, you went too soon. We will miss you always. Sasha. Number 104 comes from episode 40, the finale, Human Remains. The last person to die of season 1 is Jane Prentice, who was killed by the ECDC in July of 2016. Jane Prentice, you were a really great first season antagonist. I enjoyed her a lot, and I wish we got more of her like on audio versus like hearing about her. But she did amazing. She stunned. She lived, served cunt, and died. Good for her. So, here is a graph of the people with total kills for season 1. These are named people who committed murders. Agnes Montague, Angela Jarrett, Key, Jared Hopworth, Lawrence Mortimer, Lee Rental, Michael Distortion, Peter Lucas, The Still and Lightless Beast, and Wilfred Owen all had 1 kill each. Father Edwin Burrows, Gertrude Robinson, John Amherst, the Not Them, and Trevor Herbert each had 2 kills each. The Anglerfish had 6 kills. Jane Prentice had 9, and Robert Montauk had a whopping 41 kills. Oh my god, sir. You've been busy. As I keep going, I'll keep adding on to them as to this list as well, to this graph, to show who is in the lead of kills. Right now, Robert Montauk is in the lead with Jane Prentice coming up, and then the Anglerfish right in third. Hi, Editing David here. So I had recorded a section describing the gender breakdown of this season. I will be doing a gender breakdown of each season, just like James H. Denise does in the kill count, depicted in a pie chart. In my notes, for some reason, I had the werewolf from episode 31, First Hunt, and Sylvia McDonald, and Robert Arden from episode 10, Vampire Killer, I had marked as having a gender, but the gender is monster. They're monsters. So I had recorded as if there were not monsters, but now there are. So this is the gender breakdown of the 104 people that died. 15 of them were women, or at least presented as such. 40 of them were men. 3 of them were monsters. Does not include avatars. Avatars will be gendered, of course. And 46 of them are of an unknown gender. Most of those 46 are Robert Montauk's murder victims. So I will be updating these, so you'll see the pie chart for the full season, and then a pie chart for the entire series so far. So next episode, I'll have a pie chart for season 2, and a pie chart for season 1 and 2. And then it'll be updating as I go as well. So, Editing David over. So, in total, we have 104 people who died in season 1 of the Magnus Archives. With 104 deaths through 40 episodes, we get an average of 2.6 deaths per episode. Yeah, so that was the kill count for season 1 of the Magnus Archives. I will, of course, be doing season 2, 3, 4, and 5 next. Get to them eventually. I will be showing the statistics after the kill count as well. And then we shall go from there. I'm really excited to talk about other people's deaths, and at the end, show the top killers in the Magnus Archives seasons 1 through 5. I hope to do this before the Magnus Protocol comes out next year, and then I will also be talking about the Magnus Protocol as it goes out. Hopefully, I have the energy for that. Hopefully, I can. I'm manifesting it. I'm manifesting that I will be able to do that. So, stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to not go into scary, dark locations, and don't offer any cigarettes to people floating in an alleyway. Thank you very much.